Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Stanley here with Wes Warren, and our guest today is Dr. Scott Sayre, also known as Colonel Sayre. He's retired military, Air Force, and to us, really is the last word in so many things in practice. In fact, this topic of transition, it really hasn't been fully addressed until Dr. Sayre comments on it. So, Doctor, we'd like to hear your thoughts and insights on this whole transition concept.
Sure. So thanks for inviting me to talk today. Um, Transition encompasses a huge amount of territory. If for you transition is retirement, no problem. If you have a medical condition, if you have family situations, if you want to move and be next to your grandkids, I mean, there's so many reasons to retire. Then just sell your practice and retire. It may be difficult. You probably won't get from your practice what you wanted, just the nature of the way things are. But if retirement is what you need, then retire. Don't let people talk you into other objectives. However, when I was looking at this, and I'm almost going to be 70 years, well, about 10 days from now, I'll be 70. That's a little bit up there for us young whippersnapper dentists, but I'm healthy and I still run the practice and I still do incredible dentistry and I teach all of my younger dentists what's going on. So, for me, retiring is not the way, and I want to transition. There's lots of ways to do this, and Greg and Wes are probably the two best people in the country. They didn't tell me to say that. Matter of fact, they may just take that out of what I'm saying, but they're probably the two best people in the country to help you transition to what you want. For me, I'm creating what I'm calling a legacy practice. So I don't know, Greg, when it was 10 years ago, and I said, Greg, do you think I could do a second practice? And Greg was nice enough and kind enough to say, Scott, if anybody can, you can. Well, I've turned it into 4 practices. We do $20 million a year. We have 12 dentists. We have 125 employees. And so I'm creating a legacy practice. That's not for everybody. I totally understand that. But I'm just telling you to take your thinking cap off. Do you want one associate? Do you want 2 associates? Greg and Wes can help with this. Do you want to expand your office to the point where you can have 2 associates so that you can take home X dollars per year from the practice as an owner until you decide I'm out, and then those people will buy your practice. They have no other choice. So there are many options. I don't want to digress unless I have other questions. From transitioning to a large practice, a medium-sized practice, a group practice, or selling it outright and retiring. But Greg and Wes are 2 of the best people around to help you through this transition time. And quite frankly, it's not easy.
Can I ask you a question, Dr. Sayre? You ended up with 4 practices, number of practices, right?
Yes.
What we normally see is
and growing.
okay. We normally
because I'm still young.
We see yeah, you are younger than me. We normally see a mothership practice, the big mothership, and then some really little tiny spin-off things that you wonder what you were thinking almost as you look at it. Are your practices all strong?
So we started the Anderson practice 6-7 years ago. It's doing about $4 million a year. Okay. We started the Westchester practice, which is a really great location. They're doing $350 a month. So what is that? Close to $5 million a year. And then during COVID, we unfortunately started a practice in Columbus. It has been difficult to get it going, but it's doing great now, about $150 a month. We're starting our second full-time doc, so I expect it to go to at least $250 a month. So that's a $3 million practice. Now, we specifically train our docs. We do IV sedation. We're doing root canals. We're doing all the the things that general dentists need to do to make money. And, that's the key to success, is to make sure your dentists are trained and, turn them loose. But yeah, all of our practices, as we start them, we know they're going to go to a $5 million practice.
Okay, so that tells me some things. One, when I talk about the mothership and a bunch of little tiny floundering practices, the reason that doesn't apply to you isn't because, well, in a lot of these practices, wherever the main doctor is, the founder, wherever he or she lands, well, that thrives. So you have all these practices thriving, or nearly all of them, soon will. Tells me it's something it's something you believe, that you have managed to infuse into those offices, and now it's manifesting. Do you mind commenting on that?
Well, yes, but they may not like this.
Oh,
So if a lead doctor is doing, $4,000, $6,000 a day, their associate's going to do $2,000 to $5,000 a day. If I'm doing $20,000 a day, my associates are going to do $14,000 to $15,000 a day, and that's what all my associates do. So think of the size of these offices. Now, if I have a new associate, they're going to do 7, 8, 9, 10,000, and my older associates do anywhere from 13 to 18,000 per day, because this is what we train them. This is what we want them to do. We want them to do surgical extractions, full mouth extractions. We want them to do endodontics. We want them to do crown and bridge, full mouth, composites and restorations. And, I can keep going. So training is important. If, as a senior doc, you're extremely conservative and you're sending everything out, your goal is to find the associates is going to whip you in shape.
okay.
Because you need somebody who's going to do the endodontics and the crown and bridge and the things you're not doing, so that your practice goes to another level. I hope that made sense.
It does. So you believe that, well, you're almost like a Marine Corps, if I can use that derogatory term, a Marine Corps drill instructor, where you can take people who you would think are basically a write-off as human beings and turn them into incredibly effective soldiers and leaders. And you're doing that with doctors. Can you just comment on your process a little bit, or a lot?
Well, the process is this. We in dentistry hold things incorrectly.
Okay.
You have the doc out there is like, look, I'm the best. I'm just so freaking good at this. It's not even funny. And I can make it temporary. It takes me about an hour because I do perfect work. And my crown preps are incredible. The lab always comments on how nice they are. It takes me about an hour to do a crown prep. And then I send it off to the lab and I make this perfect temporary. I will never let my assistants do anything. I'm certainly not going to train an associate to be as good as me. You have never heard of that in medicine. It just doesn't happen. They have residency programs. The residents come through. Yeah, some aren't as good as others, but they're all trained, and the ones that are even better go on to take over their professors' practices and go on to become even better and go on to do research. And you don't know who those people are until you give them a chance. And we in dentistry think that we're freaking perfect. It's not true. So we need to get off of our high horses and allow people to excel. So I learned this partly in the military, but I also learned it in my own practice. Some of my FDAs do better, composite restorations than I can. Some of my docs do as good a treatment as I can, but my goal is to get them to come up to my level, not to not train them.
Right.
The CEO says to the CFO, what happens if we train all these people and they leave? The other guy looks at him and says, what if we don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So my philosophy is to train, train, train. And what I learned in the military is you turn around and you train again And after that, you train some more and you continue training. This never stops, never stops.
Question a doctor is going to have that I'm just sure of. When you say this, they're going to say, well, is he sorting through 9 out of 10 and getting rid of them and keeping one trainable? Or can he take most people and train them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's kind of exactly the opposite. We train 9 out of 10. We don't train 1 out of 9 or 1 out of 10. We look for everybody. We train everybody and we keep moving. And if somebody falls out, if you really think about it, it could be our training methods. It could be our inability to make somebody better than what they could be. And yes, at the same time, it can be their attitude. It can be their fit. We are not personality fixers. We will never perfect. Matter of fact, I think I learned this from Greg. It's like, you can handle some, well, I say this about my sedation patients. I can handle neurosis. I do not handle psychosis. And that's kind of the same with staff. We look for attitude and aptitude. Greg taught me that a long time ago. And if they have any ability, we can get them trained up.
Yeah, let me ask you another question, doctor.
And let me interject real quick before
Go
I ask
ahead,
that.
please.
Please don't show this to my docs.
Okay. Okay.
I think all of them are just average docs.
That's what they look like.
No, they're just, when they first come in, these are average docs. And we train them up to do $15,000, $18,000 a day. We get them to do root canals the way we want. We train them. We get them to do implants, wisdom teeth, surgical extractions. So guess what? If an average doc can do it, everybody can do it. They went to dental school to want to be capable.
You'd think. Question I have for you is, where does the pressure come from? Now, hear me out. Does the pressure come from the top down, from you saying, hey, come on, you guys, you can do this? Or does it come from staff saying, hey, Dr. Sayre doesn't do it that way. Why don't you try this? Where does the pressure come from for them to excel?
That is a great question. So they spend time with me for a month, 2 months, or my first associate would just come over and watch me do stuff and go back and all this. And I really think that the pressure, when they see what I'm doing, so this again goes back to the lead doc. If you're not doing anything, you're doing $4,000 a day, $6,000 a day, your associate's going to do $3,000 a day. If you're doing $10,000, $15,000 a day, your associate's going to see that. And this is very important. So we have a staff run practice, exactly what Greg and Wes talk about. Them handle it, let them handle the schedule, the new patients, all the things that they're supposed to do. And then the docs will come up to the level they're supposed to. It's really critical, really important.
Of your standard then.
Yeah.
Okay.
They personally will want to do better. And if they don't, that would be an indication maybe that's not the right doc.
What is your percentage of those who make it? In a regular practice, making it just means usually survival, clock punching, maybe a little profit. How many make it to this level we're talking about?
Every associate I've hired except for one.
Okay.
So one person I felt was inferior in their ability to actually do dentistry. And they lasted about 4 or 5 months, I think. And we just let them go. That's the only person that I've let go. And we've never lost an associate unless we had lost one associate in all of this time. That person was from the West and they just said, look, I want to go back to family. I'm going to Denver and thank you for sharing everything with me. And I just have to get back. I got 4 kids. I got all these grandkids. I got brothers and sisters. We just want to go back home. And I said, God bless you. That's great. Let's get it on. And he's doing fine. His last text to me was like, it's a lot slower than I thought, because he was making a huge amount of money with me. Yeah, and he's probably going to be sorry, but that's okay. In the long run, a really big income pays for a heck of a lot of flights to Denver.
That's true.
Whatever.
You could bring half the people of Denver to you if the income's good enough, I suppose. This is a great look into the philosophy, to the outlook, the culture of greatness in dentistry. You don't celebrate it as greatness among your employees, among your doctors. And I think that's a great thing. You celebrate it as basically just what's expected of them.
No, that's correct, Greg.
It's like you said, if I'm doing 20 a day and they can do 15 or 16, well, we're all friends,
Right.
I think that's a great way to look at it. We got too many doctors trying to inspire from the top down, like you are, and their production is not inspiring.
Yeah.
It's not even hardly sustainable. And the thought then is, how many dentists does it take, to screw in a light bulb? How many dentists does it take to make a profit? And so that's a problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dentists need to concentrate on a couple of things. One is the kind of the quality and amount of their work. The other thing is what they do. So if you're doing great endodontics, and you can do endodontics and a post and build up and a crown, you just took your revenue from, you send it to the endodontist. This is a great example. You send it to the endodontist and they do the root canal. And now the patient thinks, all of us, every dentist you're going to show this to are going to go, I saw this patient a year later, I had to take out their tooth because the decay was too deep. Right? All the time. I think it's something like 90% of the patients you send to the periodontist don't get back to you for your restorative dentistry. Because they just had $6,000 worth of perio trying to save their teeth, and they still have all these, fillings and crowns that need to be done, and they never get it done. So the more you keep in house, the more realistic you are, the more you learn, the more you understand your patients and their needs. So many of these perio patients would actually prefer to just have extractions and whatever restorative you can do. But the truth of the matter is, if you as a dentist aren't learning to do minor perio, some grafting, extractions, grafts, implants, not the 95%, or the 95%, not the 5% that's hard. You don't need to do that.
So you're saying
that
your style of practice really can't be duplicated by people that send everything out like some of our offices do, where they just send everything out. They send the profit out, you might say.
They send all the profit out.
So
all the profit.
What you're doing, where you have people, associate doctors producing 16, 18,000 a month.
A day.
So good. Good. And here's my question to you. You have met so many people that we work with. They have met you, you've met them. Do you think that they could do what you're doing?
I know they could. I absolutely know that they could. They're resistant. They are, they get back home and nobody's in their boat because they don't bring staff to the meetings.
Okay.
They don't come and visit my office. They don't go see Chris Martin's office. They don't undertake the real steps that need to be done, which is normal for human nature.
Okay.
This is what we do. If you think that this was as difficult for me as it is for everybody else, I don't know, maybe I'm a little different. I became a pilot when I was like, I started flying when I was 14. Maybe that got it out of my system. I soloed at 16 and got my license at 17. Trust me, this is one of the hardest things I ever did.
I want to ask you the question that a lot of people are probably thinking is, what did you learn on your way through the military, through the Air Force, all the way up to colonel? What did you learn that is probably manifesting in your practice? Yeah.
The simple matter is this: train, 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 and train again. It never stops. Change is inevitable. You will always change. Stop resisting change. Your bank's going to change. The stock market's going to go up every day, going to go down every day. The global warming is going to change every single day. Stop worrying about that. Worry about the change in your office. The fact that you just lost an employee, you got to get a new one. The fact that you got to do this and that. Make people accountable. Make people accountable. Very important. So change every day. Accountability, constant. Training will never cease. Those three things are probably, the main logger. That's it.
Okay. All right. So you don't see any change in your direction. Your definition of transition is really transitioning to more offices, more production, more success.
Yep. Yep.
Inspiring.
Well, it's been great. I was wondering, if we'd comment a little bit about the things that doctors are running into. You talked about when we first started, doctors that are getting out of dentistry, or thinking about getting out of dentistry for reasons that aren't like you said, that they want to move closer to the grandkids, that they've got some new hobby that they just want to quit and do. They're wanting to leave for these weird reasons, and one of them is because my accountant says, I could get an extra $100,000 if I sell now versus 3 years from now. I hear that a lot as a reason to get out, $100,000 or something like that they can get on valuation of the practice. It just seems silly to me. That's one reason I hear people getting out. I don't know if you guys hear anything else.
So
I think Dr. Sayre needs a lesson in small thinking.
$100,000 invested in retirement, because retirement's not like go for it at 20%. You're a fool if you think you're going to go in the stock market and just go for it. So retirement investment is 5%, and maybe 8, but let's say 5. So on $100,000, that's $5,000 a year. You might as well go do part-time bartending, or work on the beach, or pick up trash. Who cares? I mean,
I agree. Yeah.
It's not. So the reason the accountant is telling you, I'm going to be blunt. Your accountant's telling you your practice sucks. And if you sell it now, it's going to suck less, because in 3 years from the last 5 years, you keep going downhill.
I had one doctor sell, when I talk about weird reasons, because of taxes, that maybe Biden will raise capital gains tax, and he could get hit with, and he literally sold his practice because of it. That was his rationale. And it was from the CPA that told him now's the time to get out because taxes are going to go up.
So number one, that's just bad advice. Number two, Greg is maybe not practicing anymore, but he's a CPA. It's his background, so he can just go, sorry, that's not true. Go find a new CPA.
Okay, now Dr. Sayre, I'm 73. You're 71. Are you going to be 71?
Nope. I'm 69. I'll be 70 in December.
Wes is going to be 16 or something like that. You basically get up every day and roll the dice. In other words, none of us getting younger.
Yeah, we all do.
One of these days, it could come up snake eyes. With that in mind, that no, you're not going to live forever. Some people immediately start back up, back down, back away, slow down, quit investing in the practice. In other words, what you're doing is really full speed ahead in so many ways.
Well, so Greg, I think you bring up two good points. One is I have everything taken care of.
Okay.
I have the entire situation in a trust. I
Okay.
have done, the legal work, which is really not that expensive. I have real estate where it's supposed to be. I have, everything taken care of. And that's not a big deal. So for anybody who doesn't have a will, that's not even comprehensible to me. For those docs who have more than X that they want to leave to family and everything, that should be in a trust. And when you get those things taken care of, let's say you have a heart attack tomorrow and you want to just sell, boom, you want to just sell.
Okay.
That's fine. But if it's in a trust and it's all, your accountant and your lawyers have gotten you good advice, it doesn't matter what happens.
Right.
And so after that, in my situation, it's like full speed ahead. Why do I don't want, what am I going to play golf every day?
For
I
about
sit
2
back
weeks.
and do
That's
at my age in good health. What am I gonna try and go fishing every day? So I like doing dentistry 3 days a week. I then create the business on the rest of the time. Here it is, 4:30 at night, in Cincinnati, and I'm talking to you all. This is enjoyable to me.
okay.
My wife is out shopping. What the heck? What am I going to do?
Right.
I'm going to see my grandkids this weekend. I'm going to have fun. My point is, I'm not going to sit around for the rest of my life doing nothing. I'm going to continue to grow this thing and make it what I think it should be for sedation dentistry, which is, I want to create comfortable dentistry for everyone. That's my mantra. And that's where we're going.
That's good to know where you're going. So you've answered the hardest questions that I think Wes and I have been given. So we want to thank you for that and give you one last opportunity to just throw in anything else you want to add.
Well, this is not my last meeting for the night. I got to go and see with my lab tech. We're gonna go see Ray and some printing and some different kinds of things with the new Trio 5. And I just enjoy doing this. Quite honestly, if Greg and Wes want to get anybody in touch with me, that's fine. You can grow practices. You can do sedation dentistry. We've created a new continuing education center called the Vesper Institute.
Okay.
And I think that all of us are going to be involved in that even more. Greg, Wes, if you guys want me to come out and present information, let me know, because the details of this,
Doctor, let me ask you.
I'm here a spokesperson. The
Some of our-
details
Yeah.
are what Greg and Wes know. Those are the details. They start you look, I was here, right? Now I'm here.
Yeah.
Because of Greg and Wes.
Well, thank you. Doctor, what I think people are concerned about is coming to Vesper and somebody maybe even thinking less of them, because here they are, 55 years of age, and they don't do endo. They truly don't know how to do it because they haven't been doing it. How do you treat them? How are they received when they show up with just basic dental skills?
Greg, I really think this is an entirely different conversation. If you're 55 and you don't want to learn endo or surgical extractions, you haven't been doing it, you're not comfortable, this is where you really need to have a lead associate come in who's willing to get trained and all of that. This is a big conversation that I think a lot of docs who are trying to transition, they're like, man, I'm afraid of this. Maybe they'll pick up a few things. If you're 55 and next year you learn basic endo or some extractions or more about implants. Okay, but how much can you learn from 55 to 60? Right?
Okay.
I'm talking about I went to a residency when I pulled the Doogie Howser thing, okay? I was a dentist at like 21 or 22 or whatever. And then I went to a residency, which was fabulous. And I continued to learn since then. So I've been doing this for like 47 years. And, Katie bar the door, I did it all. That's not what everybody can do, but I can teach them. So if you're 60 years old and you're just starting to do endo, that may be a tough shift. I'm not going to lie to anybody. But the key is to understand the concept and then get the associate
Right.
who you say, look, we're gonna tear you loose. You're the lion at the end of the pole.
All
Keep
right.
going. And I think that's probably one of the keys that we're missing here is to really get the exceptional associate who's can just tear this thing loose and really make it happen. And that they should come to Vesper. They should go to Whitehall. They should really turn this thing on. And I'm sorry, the older doc needs to just like back off and say, okay, accept as much as they can. Maybe they can't do a $2 million building yet, but maybe next year when the associate is taking the profits up to here, then he goes, yeah, I'll sign on the line. That makes sense.
Sure it does. I said 55, but I could have said 45 or 40. And
Sure.
there's some point where people
Greg,
knowing.
if they're at 40 and they don't want to learn all this, then they have a problem. I'm just being honest with you.
Okay, good. So I like your idea then. We'll bring in the young associate, train them up, turn them loose.
Yep.
Put them in harness. Okay. Wes, any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
One of the best interviews I've ever seen. Thank you, Dr. Sayre.
Thank you so much. I'm off to my next one.
Now, some of this gets so technical and applies to you very uniquely. Wes and I are available to talk to you on the phone at no charge. All you have to do, set
There's
it
a
up.
link. Yeah, there's a link that you can click that's sent out always. And we definitely welcome people with their questions and we try to help people. So we do set aside a few hours every week to just talk with doctors that aren't clients. And we're more than willing and happy to talk to you about your issues.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.